Good morning. Welcome to Prepper Nation. I am John. Thank you very much for being here. Let me get this settled in here, son. All right. So, first and foremost, I'm a little chilly. I got to be honest with you. Snow, a little bit of snow on the ground, just a dusting, but where it's been so cold, one of the tires was a bit low, and so I had to get out with the compressor and blow that joker up. Not exactly what I want it to be doing this early in the morning, but it is what it is. I'm going to pour some coffee, guys, and we'll get started, okay? All right. Piping hot. So I had a question for you this morning. Can we start talking about America, please? Can we start talking about the United States of America for a change? Right now, the food banks here, I don't know what it looks like in your part of the country or, if you're in another country, but the food bank lines here, we have a couple of food banks that are actual food banks, and then we have a lot of these things that ran out churches and stuff like that, food pantries, et cetera, et cetera. The lines are longer than the lines at Disneyland right now. I mean, there's obviously a problem with the economy. We know this because we've been plugged into this for a while, because we're preppers, we're forward thinking. But our government, if you want to call it that, the den of thieves that steal money from you and lord over you like they're somehow superior, Joe Biden and his posse currently, they don't seem to think there's a problem. At least they're not as admitting as much. People are hurting. Folks, I've never seen this many GoFundMe's on social media and this many asks, meaning, where can I go to get kids' toys for Christmas? Who can help me pay? People are online asking for resources. Where do I go to get help with my electric bill? Where do I go for food because I can't afford groceries? This sort of thing. I've never seen it this much before. I've seen people asking, of course, running GoFundMe's and stuff, but it's gotten out of hand. And I don't blame the people for being in a bad spot. Again, I blame the thieves in DC, the swamp. Okay. There are layoffs everywhere right now, happening all over the country. Most recently, UPS again. UPS has laid off a lot of people over the past year. Some of this is due to automation, AI, things like this. Just recently, Pepsi did the same thing. But UPS has announced they're laying off again, a little over 300 people. This time, I think it was in Oklahoma. And it's part of they always say their restructuring plan, right? Like that really helps. Who lays off employees 3 weeks before Christmas? What kind of company would do that? The economy sucks. I mean, let's get down to the brass tacks here. Elon Musk, I know some of you don't trust him, you don't like him. Other people are kind of looking at him with slanted eyes, like, what's he up to? Other people are huge champions of Elon Musk, freedom of speech. Like him or not, he is saying, look, America is bankrupt. He's telling people it's a matter of time before we run aground. And honestly, when it comes to this, I can't disagree with the man. I think we are running aground. Y'all know this. Many of you do, at least, if you've been here for a while. Trump has announced recently that, many things, right? But he's announced that any country, rather, that is attached to the BRICS system, which I believe stands for, correct me if I'm wrong, but BRICS is going to be Brazil, Russia, India, China. I don't remember the last one. I think South America. I could be wrong on that, though. Please let me know. He's saying any country that's attached to them, he wants to implement a 100% tariff. And again, we talked about tariffs last week. All right. People say, oh, no, we already got tariffs, John. You don't understand what you're talking about. I understand 100% tariff is going to drive the price up. I don't care what you're buying. You can buy your dog diapers, your doggy diapers. We're doing that here, by the way. I'm basically a wet nurse for our older dog at this point. I've thought about getting nursing scrubs from the Goodwill, but I digress. I was just telling my wife this morning. I know 100% tariff is not a good thing because, and a lot of people don't understand this, but over 50% of the entire world's population now resides in a country that is attached to the BRICS system. The dollar, the US dollar, is dying. And I don't think Trump can save it. I think it's too far gone. We are seeing a shift in reserve currency. That is what the global conflict that a lot of people are calling it. They skate around the term World War III, which we'll talk about later in the week, okay? Still on the fence on that, but I think I'm coming to a conclusion on that one. I think it's too late for Trump to do anything about the US dollar. I think he can help the economy here. But as far as punishing other countries via the US dollar, I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Right now, we have the biggest economy still, far as I know, in the world, but we're rapidly losing our spot. India, China, they're going to take over this spot. You understand? It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. I think it's going to be India. India's population is exploding. They are modernizing everything in India. There are parts of India now that are so modern, it makes the United States look third world. We are a failing nation. I'm not going to sit here and say the United States won't be here in 100 years. It may not, but I think it will be. But I think we are losing our status as this superpower of the world. We used to have the kind of influence where we could go in, we could sanction countries, and they would do what they're told. We would get them back in line because the threat of the U.S. dollar, the threat of sanctions was enough to scare them off. That's why the BRICS system was created. These superpower countries are tired of being sanctioned. They're tired of the threat of the U.S. dollar. They created something different, and that is why Trump is now threatening them. But again, I believe it is too late. The gross domestic product here in the United States, the GDP that you always hear about in the news, is 2.8% for the year. So it's risen 2.8%, but that's far below what the expectations were. That means we're slowing down. We're slowing down in terms of ramping the economy up. And since Russia invaded Ukraine, for example, this is just one example, we've sanctioned them, implemented. We've kind of stair-stepped up, ramped up more sanctions. Meanwhile, their GDP is exploding. This is why I think one of the reasons that the US dollar is dying. Russia doesn't care that they are being sanctioned. At first they were looked at as like a pariah, meaning them against everybody, okay? But they're not against everybody. They have many nations who are allies. It's the US dollar that is failing. Take a look at all of the countries that still buy into the US dollar and the SWIFT system. Look what a mess the United States is. Between illegals coming up from the good old southern border and homelessness, which we're going to get into in a minute. Then you look at our allies. France, they're totally overrun. Germany, they're trying to course correct, but they're virtually overrun at this point by illegals from the Middle East. Great Britain, same thing. Seriously, pull it up. Google it. Pull up London. Take a look at what London looks like right now. It looks third world. All right, so getting into the homelessness here in America. All right, it's a major issue, folks. And there's this stigma that is attached to homelessness. You hear somebody's homeless, you immediately think they're a drug addict, right? And to be fair, a lot of times they are. But what we're seeing now in the United States, we're seeing entire families becoming homeless. They can't afford it anymore. The economy's got them beat over the barrel. People that were barely hanging on 6 months ago are now living out of their car. Or again, they're on social media and they're pleading for help. We have kids, we don't know what to do. We're working, we still can't make it. Homelessness this year alone has grown 12% here in the United States. That is not a drug problem, folks. That's an economic indicator. That is straight up Hoover Towns from the Great Depression. You understand? 12%, if we see that year over year over year, it's not going to be long until half of the nation is homeless. And I'm like, how can this be possible? Because we're sending money all over the place. We're supporting all of these wars. How can we have homelessness rise 12%? And here's a sickening number. I hate to make you mad this morning, but I have to mention this because it makes me mad. We have here in the United States of America 32,882 veterans who are homeless and on the streets. 32,882 homeless veterans. While we pay for illegals, housing, food, medical. At some point, the lunacy becomes laughable. You understand? This is not a problem that's going away. Trump is going to be able to do a lot of great things for this country, I believe. I think he's going to be a great stopgap, if nothing else. He's going to minimize the damage. He's going to be able to put some of the fires out. Okay? But he's not going to be able to fix the national debt. He's not going to be able to somehow house 32,882 veterans. These people are still going to be on the streets. He may improve the situation for some. He may improve the situation at the VA hospitals and things. But that's almost an unsolvable number, especially the way we're going right now, the route that we're taking right now. Here's another number for you. Since the war in Ukraine started, we have sent Zelensky and company $44 billion. You say, John, that's nothing. I make $44 billion a week working at 7-Eleven, son. $44 billion. Let me put this into context. I had to pull the calculator out for this one and write it down, by the way. If we would have not sent that money to Ukraine and instead focused on the United States of America, where we should be focused, every one of those veterans, how many? 32,882. We could have cut a check for every single homeless veteran for $1,338,118. Life-changing money. Do you understand? Rather than fund a war that has nothing to do with us in Europe, we could have gotten the veterans off the street. We could have taken care of them. Now, obviously, I'm not saying cut them a check for $1,338,000, but I'm saying the money was there to help plenty of homeless people out. Help the ones that want to help themselves. You understand? There's a lot of mental illness right now within the homeless community. There's a lot of PTSD. Imagine that. Being out on the streets after fighting for your country, having PTSD, and not having the resources available. Why? Because we are paying for the retirement of government officials in Ukraine. Because we continue to funnel missiles into a proxy war that we have gained nothing from. Nothing. If anything, we look like a global embarrassment at this point because it's painfully obvious that Russia has stuff that we didn't know about. Russia has stuff that we can't match, militarily speaking. We'll eventually get there, but that's going to take even more money. You understand what I'm saying? It's time to focus on the United States of America for a change. I cannot wait for Donald Trump to take office. Because although I don't think he's going to be able to solve every single problem our nation has, nobody can, I do think he's going to put America first. I just hope you're ready to pay a lot more for the things you're buying right now. Because if it's coming from a BRICS country and he puts a 100% tariff on it, you're probably going to see the price double on a lot of things. You understand? I want you to be aware of that this morning. It's a big number. Let me know what you think in the comments. Take care and God bless.